Hey, hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome. Happy Thursday. So delighted to have you guys here with me today. And I'm going to hit that go live button over on Insta. All righty. And we are live on Instagram, Jess. Yay! We had, yeah, the tech gods were going to give us a heart attack, not literally, but a little bit of anxiety
They were
beforehand.
against
But
us.
I think we're good to go. So they decided to cooperate, right? Right, Jess?
They
Well,
did. They did. They
first
did.
of all, let me say I'm so excited to chat with you. You are such a delight.
Thank
And I know this has been like a long time coming, right? In terms of
you. The
the
longest.
scheduling and, getting this all aligned. So the
Longest.
moon and the stars and the
Had to
sun and
rain.
everything, like,
Wind had to blow
all
just right. And yeah.
so here we are. And I want to welcome everyone that's joining us. Welcome to Live with Leslie, and I'm Lesli Bitel, business strategist and mentor specifically for integrative functional nutrition and medicine practitioners in private practice. And I am delighted to have you here with us today. So I'd love to hear from you. Give me a hello in the comments. Just let me know where you're from. All right. So would love to get a better sense of who is joining us. And again, I do want to say I'm so excited to have Jess with us today. We're going to be chatting with one of our wonderful colleagues, Jess Swift Harrell from Chef Jess. And Jess and I met, gosh, was it a couple years ago now?
No,
I think
Leslie.
we met it, was
It
it
was
way longer?
it was way, way back in the day.
Way
At
back.
a fancy. It was at a fancy. And
Yeah,
then I feel like we just kept being in the same place at the same time. And I was like, okay, I need to talk to her.
we
I
need to
need to
talk.
find out what's
Because I
the
remember I remember at Today's Dietitian, we chatted, right? At one of those networking events. And then,
No,
yeah,
that
we've
was
been,
fancy. That was fancy. I
was
think
that
it was,
fancy?
yeah, I think it was Jeannie's event. I think it was fancy. It was Jeannie's event.
Okay.
We chatted and
Yes.
we were like, we have to do this. And that was like the second time we said that we had to do this live. So
Yes. Yes. So here
glad
we
that we found
are.
enough work in the
Finally.
summer and everything, but we can get into that. We can get into that.
Yes. 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 So, all right. So I do want to give a nice warm welcome to Jess Swift Harrell from Chef Jess.
Thank
And
you.
gosh, I checked out your website. You
Thank
are doing
you.
all kinds of cool things. And what we're going to talk about today really is Jess's career journey from clinical to culinary and literally everything in between. Right. So I think it's going to be a really awesome conversation. I can't wait to learn more. And, it just goes to show the huge variety of things you can do with your RD credential. So, that being said, let's jump in. Just give us the backstory. I did read a little bit about that poignant moment on your website where you described, oh my God, how scary, where your dad, his blood sugar went up to
Yes.
400. And
Yes.
thank
Yes.
good.
Yes.
Yeah. So that sounds like, the day when your trajectory, your life mission changed. Tell us about that.
It did, and I want to rewind a little bit because I think we have a little bit of time to talk about it.
We do.
Growing up, I had no idea what a dietitian was. I did not know that there were dietitians. I did not know that there were people who studied food. I had no idea. You just think about like doctors, lawyers, like, engineer, teacher, right? So like those are your career choices when you're young. But I always knew I wanted to be a chef. And against my father's wishes, well, Leslie, you mentioned him.
Yeah.
We are going to, it'll become full circle for him. He really wanted me to go to med school. And I was like, okay, fine, just I'll try it. But then at the last moment, I said, I really have to follow my heart. I grew up with my grandmother cooking her Southern dishes, my mother cooking. When I was young, and my mom, thank you so much for letting me do this, but she would just put down ingredients when I was crawling around, and I would throw like cocoa butter and mustard and just anything, and she would just like take it and pretend like she was baking it. And I think that kind of helped, like
So
fuel
cute.
my love for culinary. And I just knew that's what I wanted to be. I wanted to be a chef. So fast forward, my father said, well, being a chef, that's more like a hobby, right? He didn't think about it as being a career because he's an engineer. So, and I said, no, I want to be a chef. I went ahead and went to Johnson & Wales. There we had some electives that we could choose from, and culinary nutrition was one. And that's where I met my first ever chef RD, Dr. Marianne Marachin. She showed me that you could mix, my love for, medical, my love for food, and just like put it into one career. And it opened my eyes. So while I, was finishing culinary school and starting that culinary nutrition, trying to like dip my toe into the water, as I like to say, my father actually was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. He had a career where he, traveling around, corporate card, always on the road, not really paying attention to what he ate. At that time, he was probably up to 360 pounds, which was a lot heavier than he typically would be. But yeah, he was driving, like fainted on the side of the road. Luckily was able to kind of like pull over, and someone saw him, called an ambulance. And when he got to the hospital, his blood sugar was 400. So just even now saying that after all this time, it still, gives me kind of like a chill, because at the time I didn't understand, right? Because I was just starting out in my culinary nutrition journey. So I didn't understand what a blood sugar of 400 was. That perspective, right? I didn't have that dietitian perspective yet. So I knew that I could help him with food just because of what I was learning in culinary school. I knew I could help him with food. So I said, you know what? He is going to be my patient, my very first patient. I will tell you, it was a tough road. I mean, it's very hard. And I'm sure some of you out there know how hard it is to get family and close friends to really listen to your advice.
Oh my gosh. They're the worst. Are you kidding? They're the worst.
I mean, literally to date. I mean, and this is fast forward almost 16 years into my dietetics career, and he's still my toughest patient. Still, I mean, just the back and forth, but he was my guinea pig. He helped me kind of develop into my chef RD path and what I wanted to do. Tried everything new I heard of him, saw a new study. Oh, we're trying that. New exercise, knew this, knew that. So, I was able to fix him. Long story short, he now is a marathoner. He's 180 pounds.
Wow.
And he can still do the things that he loves to do, like his beer appreciation club. Like that was his thing. He's like, okay, I don't want to give up all the things I love. And I'm sure you can relate, Lesli, just from coaching and talking to different people. When you are diagnosed with something that can be a total lifestyle change that you have to go through, that is very hard. If you've been doing something your whole life one way for like 40 years, you know what I mean? And then just wake up and say, hey, I have to make a change. Finding those sustainable options for you is tough. So I understand the pushback that he gave me, but I'm so happy that he allowed me to make those changes and that he's been able to stick with them. I mean, it's now been, like I said, like 16 years later, he is doing so good. So
that's amazing. And I'm so pleased that he listened to you and followed through. I've been trying with my father for countless years, and yeah, the needle has not budged. Let me just say,
and I think sometimes it takes seeing and really having a connection with someone who has made the leap. So you talk about your father, and trying to really push him to that. Maybe having that relationship with someone else who outside of you, unfortunately, so where he could see like that change, that transformation. I think that's kind of what it took. Some of my other family members have jumped on board. They have not been, I would say, as strict and proactive as my father was. I think diabetes really scared him. Especially, being a minority, we're disproportionately affected by things like, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, things like that. So we really need to make sure that we are setting good examples in our community and finding those people and finding small steps, right? So it's all the small steps that we do. Yeah.
What kind of changes did he implement? So I hear he's a marathoner now, which is amazing. So is it fair to say that he was sedentary before?
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
I mean,
so he was sedentary. What were some of the other things that you worked on with him?
His diet, I mean, he was eating fast food, at that time he was driving back and forth between Canada and the United States, in Michigan.
Oh my gosh.
So he would grab a burger and fries and eat it in the car on the way home. And then, on the way out, he would grab a breakfast sandwich and a coffee and hash brown. And that was the routine. He had to, go have dinner with clients and things like that. So, it's beer all the time. It's on top of not getting a lot of rest. He was kind of coming home like on the weekends and having to go back to Canada, you know what I mean, during the weekday. So it was just a very hectic lifestyle. So we had to I had to teach him how important sleep was. He just didn't understand that like the 3 hours a night that you're getting, that's not going to cut it.
Oh my gosh.
Right. I had to talk to him about inflammation. So we started talking about that. My father now drinks cod liver oil every day. This is somebody who went from eating cheeseburgers all the time and fried foods. He didn't exercise. He walked. So we started out walking and he would walk around the track, and we started out with 1 mile, and then he would do 2, and then he would do 3. And now it's crazy. I will call him on a Saturday morning and it'll be 9 a.m. And I'm like, hey, you sound awake. What'd you do? He's like, oh, I just did a 20-mile trail run. And I'm like,
oh my gosh,
it's 9 a.m. So
amazing.
Yeah. So doing those and then just making that promise to him that you can make changes in your lifestyle. He wasn't a smoker, but he did drink more. And he's kind of cut back on that. But you can make changes in your lifestyle and not give up the things that you love. So that's what I really want to make sure people know. It's not just a black or white thing. There is so much gray area when you change your lifestyle to become healthier.
So good. It's very impressive. So obviously he was your inspiration, right? So he had that episode of elevated blood sugar, right? And passed out on the side of the road. And what happened after that in terms of your career?
So I decided to continue my culinary nutrition journey, and I went to Michigan State for dietetics. I did that for 2 reasons. One, to be closer to him because I could help.
Where does your family, where are you from in Michigan?
Oh, okay. So I was born in Flint, Michigan, and then raised in Atlanta, Georgia. My dad was in Michigan, my mom's side of the family in Georgia. But now he lives in Grand Blanc. So going back to Michigan State, it was kind of like going home or whatever. I mean, but they have a really, really good dietetic program. Dr. Witherspoon there does amazing work. I love her so much. She's part of the reason why I continued on and went to graduate school. She would tell my parents oh, I think Jess can do better, or she's doing this, or don't let her slack in my class.
Oh, good.
She was like my mom.
Wow. Yeah. Well, incidentally, all of my siblings and my husband went to Michigan State, just FYI. So yeah.
Go green.
Yes, go green. I got, yep.
You do. You're repping today. Unfortunately, I see the maize and blue behind me. I should have wore something different.
Yes. Yep.
I know.
So that's great. So you have a master's degree in medical science, right?
In nutritional sciences. I actually came to Washington, D.C., where I am now, for my master's in nutritional sciences. And I decided that I wanted to go on into integrative and functional nutrition. And I think we also met from being in those circles too with Kathy Swift. My last name before I got married was Swift. So we would say we're the Swift sisters. So she was a really big, she was a really, I think it was a pivotal moment for me when I met her, just to find out about integrative and functional nutrition and kind of what it does, and solving problems at the root, at the root of it all, and it was just so interesting. So I just followed on with that.
Amazing, yeah, and congratulations. When did you finish your credentialing?
2 years ago now.
Okay, all right.
Yeah,
that's a no small feat.
It was so much work, but I will tell people, if you're interested in functional nutrition, it's something that you need to do. I would highly recommend it. I learned so much, and then just continuing to keep up with CEUs and things like that. It's worth it. It's really, really worth it. You find so much more out about nutrition, I guess, at its base, instead of thinking about so much of the medicines and things. You talk about like supplements and what you can do holistically to kind of make a change. So I love that part.
So good. And how long did it take you from start to finish for that credential?
It was honestly, it was about 1.5 years.
Okay. Yeah. I think you did the fast track.
Yeah.
What I hear.
I know some people take 2 years. Yeah. But it was great. It was great.
So tell me a little bit about, what are you doing now? How are you? I mean, you've got so many directions that you can go.
Right.
And I look at your you're doing so many things. So are you doing private practice now?
So I am not doing private practice now.
Okay.
And I will tell you that I initially thought I wanted to do, after rotations and doing clinicals and things like that, I just knew, there was a way where I could combine my nutrition and my culinary degree, because I saw what I was doing for my dad. Right. And funny story, I went on a job interview and the guy was like, "Oh, this is amazing." He said, "But I'm going to tell you what, I'm not going to hire you." And he said that and I was like, "Okay, well, I appreciate your feedback." And he says, "You're a chef and a dietitian. I feel like you should make a choice." He told me I couldn't do both.
Oh.
Right. So I started my own business.
Good for you.
And that's how Chef Jess kind of started out. I started out doing in-home cooking classes for people and concierge nutrition consultations. And that's when I was doing my one-on-ones. I would go out, we would, talk about what your nutrition needs are. Some people would say "Oh, hey, I have diabetes, newly diagnosed, and I want to cook diabetic friendly, but also, my girlfriend, she was diagnosed with diabetes." So then it started off as me doing small cooking classes in people's homes. And then that elevated to, okay, well, I have to go to work, so can you just cook and put the food in my fridge? And then their neighbor would call and say, "Hey, I heard you were at Jane's house. Can you come down and, my husband has high cholesterol. Can you make high cholesterol? Can you make foods?" So I literally would go to I would have a neighborhood that I would go to on Monday, another one on Tuesday. I was planning, prepping, shopping, cooking, cleaning, and then I would go to the next house. And then I started hiring people to help me with the shopping. So I would do all the planning. I would give them a grocery list. They would shop and then bring the food to the house. When I was there, I would have a prep cook come before me, and then someone who would come clean up after me. That was the the routine. And I did it Monday through Friday, and I was just dead on Saturday. Because you had to do all the planning again starting Sunday, right? You had to make sure they liked the stuff. So my sister, and this is how it turned into a family business. My sister, she has a background in project management, engineering. And she said, we can scale this. So that's what we did. We moved to a commercial kitchen. We had staff. We started delivering. So that's how my nutrition career or my nutrition background turned into being a full service catering company.
Unbelievable. Okay,
Right.
so that's what you're doing right now,
Right.
correct?
No, Lesli, we're not
Oh
done
my
yet.
gosh. Oh my gosh. Okay, so this is the everything in between journey. Okay,
Everything in
amazing.
between. I did that for like 15 years. So I feel like I like to tell people I was doing food as medicine before food as medicine was cool. Like now it's cool. Like,
Completely. Yeah.
right. So just working with all the physicians, making sure that they have the nutrition prescriptions, working with local farms, organic, whoever I could work with, or we could also helping like keep the money in the community, right? So
Yeah.
we did that. We did a lot of charity work, but unfortunately my sciatica flared up and my husband was like, nope, can't keep doing that. So had to stop with that. And then I moved to, since I had been doing all the recipe creation and R&D work for my own, I started doing it for companies. So fast forward, I now have taken my dietetics training and I'm using that for R&D. I wrote a book.
I see the book in your background.
Right there on inflammation, anti-inflammatory foods. So I've been doing more writing, more R&D, recipe development, and I also do some corporate wellness. So I like to tell people that you can take your RD background and you can be a jack of all trades with it. Food service, corporate wellness, brand work, spokesman or media writing. So I really want people to take advantage of all of the different avenues that you could go in with your nutrition background. And it's funny, I was at an immersive experience yesterday, and I was with a group of dietitians from all over. And the thing that we kept coming back to is how in school, we didn't know that we had all these options, right? Where
You just had maybe two, right? You either work in a hospital or maybe you do WIC, right? I mean, kind of. That's
community, and then maybe Aramark came along, or one of those larger companies where they needed a dietitian for like.
Yeah, you could do for food service. I
Service,
never really
hospital.
About that. Yeah.
Yeah, but Lesli, as a businesswoman, diversifying your income, that's the way to go. And I will tell you, I am the happiest that I've been. The fact that I'm diversifying my income, I have reclaimed my time, right? You work when you pick up the contracts that you want, exactly how much work you need, things like that. So I really enjoy what I'm doing now.
How did you, I'll bet people that are watching, I'm looking at who's here. We have we have plant-based chef is here. We've got Crohn's and colitis dietitian, Ashley. Hey, Ashley. The dietitian editor. We've got Sherry Eats Well. Anyway, we've got a variety. So I'm guessing, and guys, ask questions because this is such a great opportunity. For someone that wants to diversify their income and get, maybe involved in media or get, some of these awesome contracts, like, how do you do it?
Okay, so I will tell you, my journey started with networking, meeting people like you. I am the girl who, if you're in a room with me at Fancy, I am standing up, I'm raising my hand, I'm asking questions, I'm going to talk to the speaker. If there's something that I'm interested in, I do that, and I network and I follow up. And from that,
follow up,
I was able to, do the book. Someone said, oh, I remember meeting you such and such, like, oh yeah, we have this anti-inflammatory project that we're trying to put together. How do you feel about that? So just things like that. And then from that, I also was on Food Network. People saw me there. Oh, we want you to come and do our event, things like that. So I think it really boils down to networking and one who loves people, but it is very exhausting. That is what you need to do. I think that COVID was horrible, but it also gave us the opportunity of all of these lives and a lot of digital communication. Everyone knows how to do Zoom now. So there is an opportunity
Sure.
for you to put yourself in the room with someone who's across the world, right? So there are so many more networking opportunities, and that is how I did it. And also, once I complete projects, I always ask for testimonials or feedback, and if I have permission to post those testimonials, and then like references, so people know that like I take pride in my work, I do a good job, and when they're looking for somebody, my name may come up.
Okay. So good. I
Thank you.
mean, so it's amazing what you're doing right now. Tell us, tell us a little bit about that book. I saw it on your website, and I see it on your back shelf, and
Yeah.
I want it. So it looks
Okay,
like it's a
Amazon.
beautiful
Yeah.
spiral bound book, right?
Yes. So it is a book. It's called 28-Day Anti-Inflammatory Diet, and it
Okay,
consists of recipes, shopping list, a weekly menu, so you know exactly how to pair the
great.
foods. It has caloric counts, but more importantly, it has a section where it just talks to you about anti-inflammatory, the types of foods that you can incorporate into your diet, and like easy tips and tricks that you can do and share, right? So
Okay.
it's really, really easy to follow. It is something for people who are just looking for a really nice way of clean eating. It is not a book to where you follow it and you're expected to lose, a lot of weight.
Mhm,
It is just a
mhm.
way to kind of help you feel better, to help increase your energy, and most importantly, reduce that inflammation.
And when was that published?
That was
Is it just
published.
recent?
This was this book was it was December 2022. So yeah, it's almost two
Okay.
years.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, congratulations.
Thank you.
Oh, that's exciting. All right. Um, so you're not in private practice, so you're not really working with patients, right?
Correct.
I'm curious about, the IFNA credential. So do you find that you're putting that to good use, or was that kind of more for your personal knowledge base?
So for me, I think that I am, because I am in the food as medicine space and doing a lot of R&D
Okay.
work and recipe development. So just even thinking about the supplements, thinking about the additives in food, thinking about the
Mhm.
whole foods and kind of the nutrients that they offer for cognition or anti-inflammatory or whatever, I feel like I'm able to really understand and use
Mhm.
those, and also not just use them but justify to whoever I'm working with why I chose
Okay.
those foods. I think that it
Uh,
definitely helps me. Yeah, for sure.
that makes a ton of sense. And
Yeah.
then, so do you have anything you want to add in terms of, how you feel like your background as a chef and an RD, gives you this unique perspective?
Um, I will say this. I remember just going through clinicals, and I told this to I think recently to someone I was speaking with, and they were asking me about like, do you feel like you wasted time getting your culinary degree because you ended up being a dietitian? So you could have just, went and start to be a dietitian and not really did the culinary. And I said, no, because when I was doing my clinical rounds, I noticed, coming up with meal plans for patients and things like that. Um, the meal plan needs to make sense. It needs to be delicious. It needs to be something that's going to entice someone to make a change. And I feel like without having that culinary background, without understanding how flavors meld and spices work, that I would not be able to, give that to my clients. And
Mhm.
also in my corporate catering and event business, people wanted things like, I want a diabetic friendly wedding, but I don't want people to know it's diabetic friendly. So being
Wow.
able to combine my culinary knowledge and my dietetic knowledge to pull that event together. I mean, that I would never have been able to do that without
Mm-mm.
without culinary school. So
That's so cool. So, so awesome. Yeah, and to kind of piggyback on that, um, I do not have a culinary background at all, and at all. I can follow directions really
Okay,
well,
that's a start.
but
That's a
I'm
start.
not
Let's see.
I'm not gonna be that person that is just like a little of this, I'm not that person. Like,
Okay.
I follow the recipe and
You
I
might be good at baking.
measure, and
You're a baker.
yeah, I do like baking, actually. I
Mhm.
really like baking. But I'm not that person, like, I just don't have that kind of knowledge base, and I have to be really, really honest. I felt when I was in private practice in my nutrition practice, I felt like that was a deficit. I really did because, you're, making all these recommendations, but without that culinary sense of confidence, I just found it to be a little bit more challenging, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah,
It
no,
was like there was a missing link, right? A little missing piece of the
it
puzzle
makes
for me.
perfect sense. It makes perfect sense. And I tell people, for example, you're recommending carrots, right? So you say, oh, a half cup of carrots. But why not be able to, recommend maybe like some, paprika glazed or spiced carrots with
Mm,
like some cilantro and gremolata, or you know what I mean? Like that sounds more enticing, and someone's gonna eat that and be like, oh, I said I didn't like carrots, but these are delicious. So it's just it's being able to kind of elevate the recommendations, and I think
mhm.
that's where culinary really comes into play.
Yeah, yeah, because let's be honest, a lot of people don't like to eat vegetables, right? They don't.
True.
So, sometimes, yeah, we need, again, I like how you phrase that, to elevate, the flavors, to make them more palatable and yummy and just appealing to people so they'll do it, right?
Yeah, so they'll
Which
request
is,
that recipe. Like, oh, I want those.
yes, yes. Do you have those kind of yummy recipes in your book?
Yeah, we actually do. So there are quite
Okay.
a few. We play with quite a few spices. There are some
Okay.
curries and turmeric dishes. I know we use
Mhm.
some paprika,
Yum.
ginger. So all of those things that when you saute them really make your
Yes.
house smell good, like they're in there.
All right. Guys, buy the book. As soon as I get off this call, I'm gonna order it. I
Thank you.
seriously am. I
Thank you.
One thing, this is a little off the topic, but I'm always trying to like figure out how to make really good Brussels sprouts, right? Just because I really do like Brussels sprouts, but they're kind of boring, unless you dress them up. So yeah, so that's that. I'm always on a quest. Like, I will buy cookbooks that are 100% about Brussels sprouts, right?
Wow.
So
Okay, so
yeah,
this sounds like a
yeah,
challenge.
yeah, right? Yeah,
Hmm.
because, well, they're so good for you, and
Right.
they're cruciferous, and yeah, and I do like to like, if there's Brussels sprouts on the menu at a restaurant, I always get them. I'm like,
Yeah,
oh, they're
like
so good. Why can't I do this at home? I cannot seem to, even with all
I
my
will tell
Brussels sprout.
you, I will tell you with Brussels sprouts, I always like to blanch them quickly beforehand and then do
Okay,
like my cooking, like my sauteing or my roasting. I feel like
okay, okay.
sometimes they can get a little dry on the outside and tougher and like harder still in the inside if
Mhm,
you don't do that. So I will
okay.
blanch Brussels
Good
sprouts.
tip.
Yeah, I will put them on like a parchment or a paper towel and kind of let them dry a little bit, and then saute onions, turmeric, balsamic
Yes.
vinegar, like all that's really
Yummy. Mm.
cranberries. Yeah.
Oh, yum. Yum, yum. I'm hungry. So, all right, this is so awesome. So what advice would you give to someone that does want to follow an unconventional career path? Especially, in the health and wellness field, there's so many options. But honestly, sometimes I think people get a little paralyzed. They don't know how to go about doing it.
So, yes, I agree. So, number one, I always say if you see someone else doing it and that's something that you're interested in, try to be an intern if you have time. Try to
Okay.
be a fellow.
Mhm.
Really learn that and see if that's the direction that you want to go in. Because I will tell you, starting your own business, it is not all peaches and cream. And Lesli can tell you that. It
Mhm.
is tough and you have to love it, right? If that's what you're going to do. I mean, I'm all for
Right.
entrepreneurship. Obviously, I'm an entrepreneur, but I will say it's tough. So the things that really helped me is having that mentorship, talking to
Mhm.
people in the field, going to networking events, finding out, reading up on it. If you think you want to be a cookbook author, then, join some groups where they talk about writing books, things like that, like recipe development, things like that. So just
Mhm.
make sure that you are able to gain as much knowledge before you kind of jump into it. And then also make sure that you're set up in other ways. So we talk about being set up financially. Do you have enough to really invest in giving, whatever you're trying to do a go, especially if it's entrepreneur?
Mhm.
So really working to do that, because the last thing that you want to do is jump off of a cliff and only be able to get 50% of what you needed done in order to know if you really, really wanted to jump into this career and
Yeah.
do this. And I know sometimes financially that's really hard. I will say that, true story, Lesli, when I first started my business, I couch surfed because I had to decide if I wanted to give up my full-time position, and I did. And
Mm.
I stayed with one of my girlfriends for like 2 months trying
Good for
to
you.
and run my business. So but that is me single, like no kids, no other real
Right.
responsibilities to think about. So I was able to have that opportunity to start. But I mean, yeah, it was one of the toughest things I did. I'm glad I did it, but going back, I wish I would have worked maybe a little bit longer, saved up some more paychecks, and
Mm.
decided to do it a more, I guess,
Mhm.
conventional way. But this is called unconventional career, so that's why you have me out here.
That's exactly right. Yeah, and plus it sounds like some of the career, the path that you chose, certainly like the catering, you've got some overhead, right?
Oh my gosh.
Especially like
I built the
you
whole
you
building.
had
Yeah.
significant overhead, like you had,
Employee,
a commercial chicken,
vehicle,
a kitchen, you had, yeah, how many
and
employees
everything that
did
goes
you
with
have?
that.
It's a lot of responsibility. So, yeah, I can see how, in retrospect, it would have been maybe a little smoother, a little less stressful.
Yeah.
Yeah, if, but hindsight's always 2020, right?
Right.
And, I always feel like when you're hungry for to be your own boss, like, I don't know, things just kind of they do come together. Like you figure
They do.
out a way to make it work. So, yeah. So, I can certainly understand that. Any final words of wisdom?
Final words of wisdom. If you are really interested in, I would say, complementing your nutrition career,
Mhm.
and you have the space and the freedom to do so, like if you're a dietitian and you say, I'm really into culinary and I want to learn how to cook, I want to be a chef, or I'm super into sports and I really want to do that, like if you have the space now and the time, do it. It's going to be worth your while to get it out of the way. I knew me once I went to grad school, I was like, yeah, I can't do this anymore. Like that was it for me. So I'm glad that I kind of bunched everything
Yeah.
together and did it at once. I was
Yeah.
also able to really explore and decide, what I wanted to do and how I wanted
Mhm.
to use, my education. So that's kind of
Mhm.
what that's my advice. And
Okay.
also, if you'll be at
Awesome.
Fancy, please come say hello. I will be at Fancy.
Oh,
Are you?
yes. Yes,
Yeah,
I'm gonna be at fencing. Are you gonna be in the marketplace
I
with
am
your
going
book?
to be. No, I'm not going to be in the marketplace. I'm not selling at Fancy, but I do have a
Okay.
few events that I have to go to. So
Okay.
we will definitely touch base, and I will see
Yeah.
people around. I'm sure
Yeah.
it's going to be a
Yeah.
good.
Anyone here that is going to Fancy, please let us know. Drop me a line.
Yeah.
Drop me an email, Lesli@lesliebytel.com. I'd love to connect with you. I'll be at the marketplace and I
Okay.
will be at Jeannie's event on
Okay. Perfect.
Sunday. So
Okay.
will I see you there?
Yes, you'll probably see me
Okay.
there.
Okay. Awesome. Sounds good. And where do you want to send our audience to learn more
Oh, yeah. So
besides Amazon, right?
yeah, so besides Amazon, or my website is www.chefjess.com, or
Okay.
you can send an email
Chefjess.com.
to
Okay.
info@chefjess.com. But if you go to the website, you can, if you go to the website, you'll see the email and the
Yeah.
contact me and the book and everything else.
Yeah. And you do send a regular newsletter, right?
I do. You can sign up for my fully functioning newsletter, which is
Okay.
I started after I did my integrative and functional nutrition certification. So we talk about, like just real world stuff and how to keep functioning in this, dysfunctional world. So that's what we talk about.
Okay. Awesome. So yeah, check Jess out at chefjess.com
Yes.
and check out her book on Amazon. Um, It's the 28, what is it called? The 28-day anti-inflammatory diet?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. So yeah, check it out. I'm gonna go buy it right now myself. I can't wait.
Yay.
So I
And leave
love
your
this book.
reviews. Like look at it and,
Okay.
leave reviews. I like those. So
Okay. Yeah, yeah. I'll do that. All right. Well, listen, I'm so glad we had this opportunity to
thank you.
connect, and I'm delighted that I get to see you again
Yes,
in like less than a couple weeks, right?
I know.
It's
I'll
right
bring
around the
soda.
corner. Like all of a
Bring your
sudden it's
parka.
here.
I heard it's gonna be cold.
Yeah. Oh, really? Oh boy. Well,
Yeah.
I'm in the Midwest. I'm actually only about 5.5 hours
Oh,
from
okay.
Minneapolis. So
I
yeah,
thought
yeah,
you
yeah.
were in New
And
York
my
for some reason.
no,
Okay.
we kind of split our time between Lake Geneva, Wisconsin, which is it's a part of Chicago. Like
Yeah.
I lived in Chicago forever, so we just moved across the border, and Salida, Colorado. But my
Oh,
daughter goes to college. She is a student at University of Minnesota.
that'll be
So
good.
yeah, yeah. So I can't wait to see her. Yeah, she's a engineering student there.
Awesome.
So yeah, yeah, yeah. So I might have to drag her around with me if she has time. She's
Bring it to the
of course got
marketplace.
her own life, and yeah, exactly. I know. Gosh, if I could get her to help me out, that would be great. But anyway, all right, guys. I know you've got to get back to your day, and same with Jess. So again, thank you. Can't wait to see you again in less than a couple weeks. And guys, hope you have a great rest of your day. This was so much fun chatting with Jess. I'm kind of fired up about like the
Yay.
culinary side of everything.
Yeah.
And yeah, and I feel a little fired up about just the whole integrative functional path again. Like it kind of
You can use it
reignited my
right. Even now, just like talking about how to use it without outside of patient to patient. Like it really
right. I know. Like I gotta tell you, this is the honest truth. I did do like some of their initial tracks when it first came out,
Mhm.
right? I did a couple, but then I was like, well, I don't really, yeah, I'm not going to pursue this because why? But it wasn't until we started talking where I was like, huh, maybe that would be a good idea.
I mean, just
So I don't know. I'm gonna rethink that.
yes, please do. Walking knowledge is everything, right?
Rethink. If anything, just for my own knowledge and health. So I don't know. I'm gonna rethink it. You kind of inspired me, Jess. Thank you.
Yay.
All
Perfect.
right, guys, take care. Mwah. Hope
Thank
everyone has
you.
a great day, and we'll see you again next week. All right. Let me know if you're going to Fancy People. Okay. I want to connect. All right. Bye, everybody. Thanks,
Thank
Jess.
you.